Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Well, go now. Mandatory evacuations ordered in California as 3 fast-moving storms are hitting the burn areas scorched by last year's holy fire. So residents have been urged to go now, and there's various ones that are listed because of obviously the dangers of mudslides and just so much flooding that's going to be possible in the area. Mudslides, debris flows, especially at the recent burn scars, particularly near the holy fire burn scar. And debris flows could happen suddenly with little or no time to act. Heed the advice of local officials. So the second fast-moving storm in the series to hit California is expected to move in the area on Tuesday into early Wednesday with potential for rain and snow at the higher elevations. The third system, expected to be the strongest and the wettest of the 3, will hit the area on Wednesday and Thursday. And debris flows and mudslides are very likely. Get ready for this triple attack, as we were talking about just yesterday, as far as the series of storms are just going to go rolling through. So evacuation's the word, and they're underway also after giant rockfall blocks Berea River in Russia, and there's a lot of interesting thoughts regarding this as well. So urgent measures are underway this week after a large and unusual landslide that took place last month in remote Khabarovsk region, southern Russia. It blocked the Berea River. The water level is now rising above the newly formed natural dam, forcing authorities to issue evacuation orders for downstream villages. This is the largest landslide event in Russia in recent years. A massive number of rocks suddenly fell into the river, and that was on December 11th, sparking numerous theories, including a meteor strike and an alien attack. And Secure Team did a video on this, and it was interesting. It actually showed that I think it was 33% of the residents thought it was a UFO, 27% thought it was a meteor coming on down. And it's an interesting question. You know, of course, everybody knows about the Tunguska event in 1908 that just leveled so much trees, so many trees, just huge area. And we've had a lot of close calls as far as asteroids, and we've had a lot of fireballs too. Like I shared with you guys, that friends just saw one yesterday, and right in the daylight, and it was really bright, very bright, with kind of like twin flames coming off the back, which makes me really, really wonder, because I've seen those before, and it makes me very suspicious that there's something that's not necessarily natural. It almost makes me think of it being more of a UFO or something. So we're really in unusual times. We're seeing a lot of wild things for sure. Here they're using a team of specialists, including geomorphologists, geologists, hydrologists, and land surveyors, all at the site conducting reconnaissance work, trying to figure out what the heck happened. And that's a big question. So hunters who first reached the site say they were alerted by a sudden and inexplicable change in the flow of the river. And they reported hot rocks on which they could warm their hands, which led some to think about a meteor impact theory. And there's some videos for you guys to check out. As always, I'll have the links for you. There's so many weird things going on, and the more I've learned about electric universe theory, and I was first exposed to it by Velikovsky, 25 years ago or so, the more it seems to make sense to me, especially, being somebody that comes out of an energy working background, Qigong, Reiki, things along those lines. It just seems to all make a lot of sense to me. We have an earthquake swarm near Santorini volcano in Greece. Greece has been active for quite a while. Greece is a seismically active zone, so is Italy as well. But there's been consistent activity there, and again, the USGS doesn't really show, the half of it, not even that. And so we're keeping an eye here on definitely the situation in Greece and looking for some of these volcanoes to wake up even more in both Greece and also in Italy, for sure. And yes, winter storms have been starting to rage, and as this is saying, winter storm continues to pummel North America with snow, ice, and freezing rain. And this one contributed to at least 10 deaths in the Midwest, and it pummeled the mid-Atlantic region for a second day Sunday, bringing with it an icy nightmare that knocked out power, canceled flights, and contributed to hundreds of car accidents. And the storm knocked out power to nearly 200,000 people in Virginia and North Carolina at its height on Sunday, according to poweroutage.us. In North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper declared a state of emergency Sunday to help utility crews restore electricity more quickly after power lines fell because of freezing rain, ice, and toppled trees. The state's western mountains and foothills were the hardest hit, along with the western Piedmont region, and nearly 1,000 state transportation workers were called out to clear ice and snow. The Weather Network reported at least 3 deaths via the Missouri State Highway Patrol. And so, it's one thing, it always kills me when I see these guys go flying by. Just because you got a big 4-wheel drive, yeah, you'll get through anything, but it doesn't mean you're going to stop. And, it's something to keep in mind, because I can't tell you over the years how many people I've seen fly by in a 4-wheel drive, beautiful truck, or an SUV, and then you pass them like a mile later and they're on the side of the road, because they couldn't make a turn. So keep that in mind, guys. 4-wheel drive helps to get through things, but it doesn't help slow you really down. Austria, biggest snowfall in recent memory. 3 meters in 48 hours buries towns and villages, and multiple snowstorms, dubbed the biggest in recent memory, have paralyzed Central European nation of Austria. Up to 3 meters of snow has been recorded in just 48 hours, killing at least 7. That's a pretty impressive amount we have going there. And we have more mystery booms, and this is down in South Carolina. And the curious part with this is this strange cloud that appeared. And this is off of Secure Team, and this is out of the Daily Star. And you can see this cloud formation. And today, after doing a video this morning, was feeling a little bit stir crazy, and while it was only between 35 and 40, still felt like just getting out there and getting in the woods. So we headed out and got a little fresh air. And while I was driving, I saw a cloud that looked just like this up here in North Carolina. And at that time, we weren't too far away from the Devil's Courthouse area, down by Lake Logan. And that area is a very interesting area, to say the least. There are so many legends here, and I just keep running into more and more people that have had direct experience. I mean, big direct paranormal experiences with all sorts of different things here. And as I was telling you guys before about the Cherokee legends, it's fascinating, and I cannot wait to get out there and to spend some nights out there in the woods. And I'm going to make some videos, and who knows, hopefully we'll have something unusual happen while out there camping in the woods. And some of these areas that have a lot of unusual activity going on, anything from the possibility of underground military bases, UFOs, also a lot of Bigfoot, Sasquatch activity, as well as activity from, what they would call in Ireland, the little people, fairies, nature spirits, things along those lines. And there's legends also about even people, human-like beings that aren't exactly human, but that live in the earth here, in the mountains, but in the earth. They're inner earth dwellers. So I can't wait to actually have the weather be warm enough so we could get out there, start doing some camping, some hiking, and tracking down some of these mysteries as well. And so more booms going on. And this is interesting. You know, we were talking about Ohio, we were talking about Indiana, we were talking about Illinois with mystery booms. There were some out there in Utah and out there in Arizona recently as well. And this is South Carolina as well. And there's just been one after another, all over Pennsylvania, you name it. And they're ongoing. And you have to wonder, I think that there's different things going on, and I wonder if some of it has to do with expanding Earth, because we've seen so many, well, sinkholes, and we've seen so many just gigantic cracks and crevices that have developed all around the globe. You name it, it's been there. And also perhaps having to do with plasma and plasma discharges and the magnetism that's going on, because we're going through at least a pole excursion. You know, we are in a pole shift. It's in process right now. Magnetic pole shift is ongoing. And there's changes going on geomagnetically in the inside of the Earth, in the interior of the Earth. And again, you know, it's being reflected perhaps with what's happening in the atmosphere. It's so cold in Turkey that animals are freezing dead in their tracks. Cold weather and heavy snowfalls engulfed northwest Turkey last week, killing more than 10 people in weather-related accidents, and it was so cold that animals literally started freezing dead. And, you know, if you guys watch that movie, Day After Tomorrow, with basically, you know, these kind of like polar vortexes that would just cause these zones in the atmosphere where the upper level winds would just come straight down to the ground and freeze things like instantaneously. When you see a fox just kind of stuck in its tracks, standing there, frozen, or in a case of some other, like kitties, and we've seen a rabbit like that. If I've seen a bunch of them, that's that reminds me too of the woolly mammoths. You know, so exactly what's going on? You know, there's huge changes. So according to first reports, the fox died frozen while searching for food. Definitely sad. And here's a little kitty that just kind of froze to death out there, being exposed to the elements. So the sun motion is parallel to the horizon level at the poles. So that would have to be such a weird thing to see, you know, like basically the sun not setting, just hanging down low, rising up a little bit, hanging down low, and then vice versa when you go long periods of time, and it's just pure darkness. So this is a time lapse, and again, I'll let you guys play it. It shows the sun circling around the horizon in 24 hours during nearly 5 days from March 8th to 13th in Antarctica. Pretty cool stuff. And here are some quote-unquote bloody lenticular clouds over Catalonia, Spain, that makes the sunset even more epic. And yeah, that's not photoshopped. It's hard to believe it's not photoshopped. Look at that. Talk about kind of creepy, eerie. But we have seen some spectacular sunsets and some eerie phenomenon, to say the least. Very strange formations all around the globe. And as I tell you guys, I always see faces and stuff. I see like an eye right here, lips right there, kind of like a nose, kind of like a distorted face, and like you're in a fun house. Now we have a study showing that if you're sleeping less than 6 hours per night, it's going to increase the risk for heart disease. Sleep is extremely important. Extremely important, and too many of us don't get enough. Too many of us will, burn the candle at both ends, and I myself am guilty of many nights staying up to 2 a.m. because I just get researching stuff and just kind of get off on a tangent before I know it. It's like 2 or 2:30 a.m. and it's like, oh God, I gotta get to sleep. But I just gotta check out this one more thing. And I think we're all guilty of that at some times. But one of the worst things to do is to end up relying on pharmaceuticals to get to sleep, and then relying on other things to get you awake in the morning. So chronic lack of sleep and poor sleep quality raises the odds of fatty plaque accumulation in the arteries, a condition known as atherosclerosis, which increases the odds of heart attack and stroke. And so there are many ways to fight heart disease, including pharmaceuticals. Well, I would put that as a last resort. Me personally, I'm not a doctor, but just telling you that. Physical activity and diet, there you go. Because that can change things so quickly. So quickly, it's amazing what we could do with a little exercise and eating properly. And talking about that, less sitting, more moving, tied to living longer. So if you're like me and you're glued to a chair sometimes for hours and hours and hours on end, make sure you get up and get a workout in. So I rededicated after first of the year, keep making sure I'm working out. At least get in 40 minutes to an hour workout pretty much 6 days a week, because you're no good to anyone if you're not taking care of yourself, and you're going to allow yourself to get sick. So replacing 30 minutes per day of sedentary time with 30 minutes of physical activity, even at light intensity, is associated with a 17% lower risk of early death in a study published by the American Journal of Epidemiology on Monday. And so the study found that just 30 minutes, just switch 30 minutes of sedentary time with 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise, and there you go, 35% lower risk of early death. So it's an obvious thing. We got to get up and move, because for one, your lymphatic system it can only operate if you're moving, and that's your septic system in the body. So movement is what gets it to move. And so, we need movement. We need to draw in some oxygen to oxidate your tissues and help clear out all the toxins. It's just so important, especially in our culture now where most of us don't. And so made a new friend on Sunday, and he's pretty cool guy, and I admire how much he's done hiking wise. And so he's hiked everywhere and actually lived months just basically living off the land, hiking, foraging, and it's a pretty cool lifestyle for some people. I know a lot of people wouldn't be able to do it, or wouldn't even want to do it. But when you're that connected to nature, and I have another friend out there, I haven't heard from him in a while, so if you're out there, Eric, give a call, make sure you're okay. He's out there, he's been living off the land since early March. Early March, he basically bugged out, and he's been living in the woods here, up towards the Tennessee border. And just for the most part, he'll get some supplies here and there as he makes his way up through the Blue Ridge, and just basically, living out of a tent. And has had some close encounters with bears and other things as well. But when you think about it, think about how we used to be when we were hunting and foraging. We're on the move a lot. We were constantly doing things. We weren't just sitting and staring at screens all day. So, in general, we were probably a lot more healthy in many ways. Nutritionally, now we have an advantage in some ways. Obviously, we could supplement things, and we understand a lot more as far as nutrition and hygiene. But at the same time, as we've talked about before, any fruits and vegetables grown, say, 100 years ago or more, they had a lot more nutrition in them than they do now, because the ground is so stripped of nutrients. And so we have to keep that in mind too. And I've talked to you guys before about trace elements and trace minerals. Trace minerals are very important, and it's simply because of the fact that there's so little of it left in our food nowadays, especially if you're eating GMO food, which it was brought up about Whole Foods. Whole Foods had promised to list everything that had GMOs in it. Now they're reneging on that. Is that because Bezos and Amazon bought them out? Perhaps. As we know, you have to look out for your own health, because we definitely can't rely on, honestly, we can't rely on the FDA at all, or we can't rely on really any of the big corporations, because they're always all about profits. And we see with the FDA, so often the people that are running it are tied to big corporations. And so, it's interesting how there's conflict of interest that gets allowed in some areas and not in others. So, my friends, take care of yourself. Get out there, exercise, get some fresh air, move around. And I understand there's chemtrails in the fresh air. That's another thing we're combating here. It is what it is, but still, exercise is good. And also eat healthy foods as much as possible. As always, my friends, please do like, share, subscribe. God bless, my friends. Stay safe. Namaste.